Senior cartographer Velisis had seen many worlds in her long career. For over 100 years, she had traveled across the galaxy, mapping stars and planets for the Galactic Concordance Survey Fleet. She had cataloged more than 3,000 worlds. Rocky worlds, gas giants, frozen moons, burning hellscapes. She thought she had seen everything the universe could offer. She was wrong. The survey ship hummed quietly as it dropped out of faster-than-light travel near System 7291 Gamma. It was supposed to be a routine mission. The system had been marked as non-viable in the ancient records, surveyed 600 years ago and then forgotten. Velisis expected to confirm the old data, update the charts, and move on to the next assignment instead. Her secondary heart stopped beating for a full 3 seconds when she saw the scan results. By the first light, she whispered, her 4 eyes locked on the display screen. The third planet from the star was a nightmare-given form. Velisis had studied dangerous worlds before, but this one seemed designed by some cruel god to destroy all life. The planet's axis was tilted at an extreme angle, which meant it experienced something called seasons, where the temperature could swing by dozens of degrees within a single orbital cycle. This alone would cause mass extinction events on most worlds, but that was only the beginning. The planet had active, tectonic plates that ground against each other constantly, creating massive earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. Its magnetic field flickered and shifted, providing inconsistent protection from the star's deadly radiation. The atmosphere contained high levels of a corrosive gas called oxygen, which would burn the lungs of most galactic species, and the water. The planet was covered in vast oceans of liquid water that could dissolve almost anything, filled with salt and minerals and countless organisms designed to consume other organisms. Class 3 Deathworld, Velisis announced to her bridge crew. Her voice trembled slightly. Only the 17th ever recorded in all of charted space. Her science officer, a tall being named Torim, with scales that shifted color based on his emotions, leaned forward in his seat. His scales had turned pale gray, the color of deep fear. The old survey was correct then, Torim said. No sentient life could possibly evolve in such conditions. The environmental pressures are too extreme. Any developing civilization would be wiped out long before achieving basic technology. Velisis nodded slowly. The logic was sound. The mathematics of survival simply did not allow for intelligent life on such a world. Evolution required stability. It required time. It required conditions that did not actively murder everything that moved. Run a full sensor sweep anyway, Velisis ordered. For the records, Torim's claws danced across his control panel. The ship's sensors reached out, scanning the Deathworld and its surrounding space. Data began streaming in, filling screens with information about atmospheric composition, surface temperature variations, electromagnetic activity. Then the sensors found something behind the system's largest gas giant. Torim's scales turned pure white. Cartographer, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. You need to see this. Velisis moved to his station and looked at the readings. For a long moment, her brain refused to process what her eyes were seeing. The numbers made no sense. They violated everything she understood about physics and technology. Magnify, she commanded. The main view screen flickered and changed. The image of the gas giant appeared, its swirling storms of hydrogen and helium filling half the display. And there, hidden in the magnetic shadow of the massive planet, was a ship. The bridge crew fell completely silent. The vessel was enormous. Velisis quickly calculated its size and felt her throat tighten. 12 kilometers long. Perhaps more. It was larger than most space stations. Larger than the biggest ships ever built by the Concordance, and its design was unlike anything in the galactic database. Sharp angles and smooth curves blended together in ways that seemed to hurt the eyes. Geometric structures jutted from its hull, folding in on themselves in patterns that should have been impossible. The ship seemed to exist in more dimensions than it should, as if it was pressing against the fabric of reality itself. What is that? One of the junior crew members asked, his voice high with fear. Nobody answered. Nobody could. Torim's instruments began screaming warnings. The readings coming from the strange ship were beyond anything the survey vessel could properly measure. Localized distortions in space-time. Quantum signatures that flickered between existing and not existing. Energy output that exceeded the Concordance's entire fleet combined. "It's seen us," Torium reported. "It's turning." Valises watched the massive vessel rotate slowly, bringing what might have been its forward section to face them. She thought about running. Their ship was fast, designed for quick surveys and rapid escape. They could probably reach the system's edge before that giant could intercept them. But curiosity held her in place. Fear and wonder battled in her mind, and wonder won. "Open a communication channel," she said. "Cartographer, I must advise against this," Torium protested. "We have no idea what we are dealing with. That ship should not exist. Its technology is centuries, perhaps millennia beyond our own." "Open the channel," Valises repeated firmly. Torium hesitated, then obeyed. The communication array hummed to life, sending a standard greeting signal toward the impossible ship. The bridge crew waited in tense silence. Seconds stretched into Renatus. The voice that filled the bridge spoke in perfect concordance standard, though the translation matrices seemed to struggle with certain words and concepts. It was clear and calm, and somehow warm. "This is the UNSS Prometheus Unbound. We welcome peaceful contact. Please state your intentions regarding our homeworld." Valises felt her legs go weak. She gripped the edge of Torium's console to keep herself standing. Their homeworld. She turned slowly to look at the view screen, where the blue and green marble of death still hung in the void. That toxic, violent, impossible world. Something had not only survived there, something had thrived. Something had evolved intelligence, built a civilization. Developed technology that made Concordance engineering look like children's toys. "Spawned," Torium urged. "They're waiting." Valises gathered her courage. Her voice shook only slightly when she spoke. "This is Senior Cartographer Valises of the Galactic Concordance Survey Fleet. We are on a peaceful mapping mission. We mean no harm to your world or your people." She paused, then asked the question, burning in her mind. "What are you?" There was a brief silence. Then the voice returned, and Valises thought she could hear something like amusement in its tone. "We are humans, Cartographer, and we have been waiting a very long time to meet our neighbors." The communication channel remained open. The massive ship hung in space like a predator, deciding whether to strike or play, and Valises realized, with a mixture of terror and excitement, that the galaxy had just changed forever. She did not yet understand how much. The news of the discovery spread through the Galactic Concordance like fire through dry grass. Within 3 cycles, Ambassador Keth arrived at System 7291 Gamma with a full diplomatic fleet. 17 ships of various sizes surrounded the small survey vessel, their weapon systems active but not aimed. Nobody wanted to start a war, but nobody wanted to be unprepared either. Keth stood on the bridge of his flagship and studied the distant human vessel through the main view screen. His 6 eyes blinked in sequence as he processed what he was seeing. The ambassador was old, even by the standards of his long-lived species. He had negotiated treaties with dozens of civilizations. He had prevented wars and ended conflicts that had lasted centuries. Nothing had prepared him for this. The records confirm it, his aide reported nervously. System 7291 Gamma was surveyed 600 years ago. The 3rd planet was classified as a Class 3 Deathworld. Primitive life forms were detected, but sentience probability was calculated at less than 6%. The system was marked non-viable and removed from active monitoring. Keth's threat glands ached with tension. 600 years. In galactic terms, that was nothing. A blink of an eye. Most civilizations required thousands of years to move from basic tool use to space travel. Some required tens of thousands. "How is this possible?" he asked quietly. Nobody had an answer. The human ship, the Prometheus Unbound, had not moved since the initial contact. It simply waited, patient as a hunting creature watching its prey. Keth had studied the sensor readings until his eyes burned. The ship's technology was not just advanced, it was fundamentally different from anything in the Concordance database. The power systems alone operated on principles that concordance physicists declared impossible. "They have agreed to send a representative," the communications officer announced. "A shuttle is launching now." Keth watched a small craft emerge from the massive vessel. It was elegant and sleek, moving without any visible propulsion system. It made no sound that their sensors could detect. It simply glided through space, like a swimming creature through water. The shuttle docked with his flagship. Security teams surrounded the airlock, weapons drawn. Keth waved them back. "This is a diplomatic meeting," he reminded them. "Lower your weapons." The soldiers obeyed reluctantly. The airlock hissed open. A human stepped through. Keth had reviewed what little data existed about human biology. He knew they were small compared to most galactic species. He knew they were soft-skinned, endoskeletal, and apparently fragile. The being before him matched those descriptions perfectly. She was short, barely reaching Keth's shoulder. Her skin was a warm brown color, smooth and unprotected by scales or shells. Her body had no visible weapons, no claws, no spines. By every physical measure, she should have been helpless, but she moved like something dangerous. Keth had seen predators before. He knew how they carried themselves, that easy confidence that came from being at the top of the food chain. This human walked the same way. And when she smiled, Keth saw her teeth were flat in the front, but pointed at the sides. "Teeth designed for tearing meat?" "Ambassador Keth," she said, her voice calm and pleasant. "I am Captain Yuki Tanaka of the UNSS Prometheus Unbound. Thank you for agreeing to meet with us." Keth found his voice. "Captain Tanaka, the Galactic Concordance welcomes contact with new civilizations. Though I must admit your existence has caused quite a stir among our scientists." The human's smile widened slightly. "I imagine it has. 600 years ago, your surveyors visited our system and concluded we would probably go extinct. At the time, they were not wrong. We were very busy trying not to destroy ourselves. And now?" Keth asked. Captain Tanaka gestured at the viewport, where her impossible ship hung in the darkness. "Now we build vessels that argue with the laws of physics. We terraform dead worlds. We bend space-time like cloth." She paused, her dark eyes meeting Keth's six with unsettling directness. "We evolved on a world that tried to kill us every single day, Ambassador. Earthquakes, volcanoes, ice ages, plagues, predators, poison air. Everything on our planet was a threat. So we learned to overcome threats. All of them." Keth felt his threat glands pulse again. "Your ship. Our scientists cannot explain it. The technology you possess should be centuries beyond what a civilization your age could develop." "Millennia beyond, actually," Tanaka corrected gently. "At least by normal developmental standards." "But we are not normal, Ambassador. We are what happens when evolution occurs under constant extreme pressure. Every generation that survived on Earth became harder to kill than the last. Every challenge we faced made us more determined to find solutions." She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small device. Keth's guards tensed, but Tanaka simply held it up for inspection. It looked like nothing special. A flat rectangle with a glowing surface. "This is a personal communication device," she explained. "Every human carries one. It contains more computing power than your entire flagship. It can access the sum total of all human knowledge instantly. It can translate any language, diagnose most diseases, and control 1,000 different systems." She turned it slightly, and Keth saw images flickering across its surface. Images of Earth, images of humans building, creating, exploring. 100 years ago, by your calendar, this technology did not exist. 50 years before that, we had not yet left our planet. 100 years before that, we had not yet split the atom. Tanaka's voice remained calm, but something fierce burned beneath the words. "We move fast, Ambassador, because we never had the luxury of moving slowly." Keth struggled to process this information. The developmental timeline she described was absurd. Impossible. Species did not advance that quickly. It violated every model of civilizational growth. "I would like to invite you aboard the Prometheus," Tanaka continued, "to see for yourself what we have become. However, I must warn you. Parts of our ship are difficult for non-humans to experience. We have areas where time does not flow normally. Sections where gravity changes direction. Crew members adapt. Visitors sometimes do not. Time does not flow normally. Keth repeated, certain the translation had malfunctioned. Our drive system allows us to manipulate the fundamental forces of reality, Tanaka explained. We call it the argument, because it lets us argue with the universe about what should and should not be possible. Her smile returned, and this time it reached her eyes. Usually, we win. Keth stood in silence for a long moment. His mind raced through possibilities, strategies, threat assessments. This species was powerful beyond anything he had encountered. They could likely destroy the entire Concordance fleet without effort. They could probably conquer the galaxy if they chose, and yet they had greeted his delegation with warmth and openness. They had answered questions freely. They had invited him aboard their ship as a guest, not a prisoner. Why? He finally asked. Why reveal yourselves now? Why make contact? Captain Tanaka's expression softened. For a moment, she looked almost sad. Because we have been alone for a very long time, Ambassador. We survived everything the universe threw at us. We conquered our Deathworld, mastered technology that bends reality, and spread across a dozen star systems. But we did it all alone. She looked at him directly, and Keth saw something unexpected in her eyes. Hope. We do not want to be alone anymore. We want neighbors, friends. We want to know that the galaxy we have worked so hard to explore is worth exploring. She extended her hand toward him, palm open. We want to know if you will meet us, not as threats to be feared, but as fellow travelers among the stars. No. Keth looked at her hand. Such a fragile thing. Soft skin over thin bones. No claws, no scales, no protection. And yet this fragile creature commanded a ship that could reshape reality. Slowly, carefully, he reached out and took her hand in his. Concordance, he said. Is honored to meet you? Velas's never expected to set foot aboard the human vessel. She was only a cartographer, a mapper of worlds and systems. Diplomacy was far above her rank. But Captain Tanaka had specifically requested her presence, citing her as the one who had made first contact. So now, she walked through corridors that should not exist. In a ship that defied everything she understood about reality, the biological screening had taken hours. Human medical technology scanned every part of her body, checking for diseases, weaknesses, and potential incompatibilities with their vessel's environment. When it was finally done, a human doctor had fitted her with a small device that attached to her neck. Environmental stabilizer, he had explained. Some sections of the Prometheus operate under non-standard physical conditions. This will keep you safe. Velas's had not asked what non-standard physical conditions meant. She was not sure she wanted to know. Her guide was a human named Dr. Omar Hassan. He was older than Captain Tanaka, with gray in his dark hair and deep lines around his eyes. He walked slowly, matching her pace, and spoke in a gentle voice that put her at ease, despite her fear. The Prometheus was built to explore, Hassan explained, as they moved through a wide corridor. Not just space, but the nature of existence itself. Every system, every deck, every room serves a purpose. Some purposes are practical. Some are philosophical. The walls around them were made of a material Velas's could not identify. It looked like metal, but it seemed to shift and flow when she was not looking directly at it. Light came from everywhere and nowhere. The air smelled clean, with a faint sweetness she found pleasant. Where are we going? She asked. The archive, Hassan said. We thought you should see our history. All of it, the good and the bad. If our species are to become friends, you deserve to know who we truly are. They passed through a doorway that appeared from nothing, and suddenly Velas's stood in a vast chamber. The ceiling stretched so high, she could not see it. The walls were lined with transparent panels, thousands of them, each displaying moving images. She saw everything. The first image showed humans in primitive clothing, hunting massive beasts with wooden spears. They were small and weak compared to their prey, But they worked together, communicating with shouts and gestures, bringing down creatures 10 times their size through teamwork and cunning. We began as prey, Hassan said quietly. Everything on our world wanted to eat us. We had no claws, no fangs, no shells. But we had our minds. We learned to think, to plan, to cooperate. And slowly we stopped being prey. The images shifted. Velasquez saw humans building structures, taming fire, creating tools. She saw them spread across their deadly world, adapting to every environment. Frozen wastelands, burning deserts, dense jungles full of venomous creatures. Wherever they went, they survived. Then the images grew darker. She saw wars. Humans killing other humans with weapons of increasing destruction. Swords and arrows gave way to guns and bombs. Cities burned, millions died. Velasquez watched in horror as mushroom clouds rose over devastated landscapes, radiation poisoning the earth for generations. We did not just fight our world, Hassan admitted. We fought each other. For resources, for territory, for ideas. We killed more of our own kind than any predator ever did. Velasquez could not speak. The violence displayed before her was staggering. These beings had torn themselves apart again and again, seemingly determined to destroy their own species. Your people should be extinct, she finally managed. Yes, Hassan agreed, many times over, but we refused to die. Every war taught us something. Every tragedy forced us to grow. We learned, slowly and painfully, that cooperation was better than conflict. That building was better than destroying. Images changed again. Now Velasquez saw humans healing instead of harming. She saw them developing medicines that cured diseases which had killed billions. She saw them creating technology that connected their entire world. She saw them reach out beyond their planet, sending primitive vessels into the void, and then she saw them change reality itself. The breakthrough happened 63 years ago, Hassan explained. Our physicists discovered that the fundamental laws of the universe were not laws at all. They were more like suggestions. Strong suggestions, but suggestions nonetheless. And with enough energy, enough precision, enough determination, those suggestions could be ignored. A display showed a small device activating. Space around it bent and twisted. For a fraction of a second, the impossible became possible. That first experiment lasted less than a second and consumed more energy than our entire planet produced in a year. But it proved our theory. Reality could be argued with. And once we knew that, nothing could stop us. Hassan led her to a smaller room within the archive. This one was different, quieter, more personal. The displays here showed not achievements, but people. Individual humans who had made a difference. We remember them all, Hassan said softly. The scientists who unlocked the secrets of nature, the leaders who chose peace over war, the ordinary people who refused to give up when everything seemed hopeless. He paused before one display, showing a woman in simple clothing standing before a crowd. This is Maria Santos. She was a teacher in one of our poorest regions. She educated thousands of children who would have otherwise had no future. 3 of her students went on to develop our medical technology. Without her, billions would have died. Velasquez studied the display. The woman looked unremarkable. Small, tired, with kind eyes and worn hands. Nothing about her suggested greatness. You honor your teachers? She asked. We honor everyone who made us better, Hassan replied. Heroes are not always warriors. Sometimes they are teachers, doctors, builders, dreamers. Sometimes they are simply people who refuse to let others suffer when they could help. They walked in silence for a while. Velasquez processed what she had seen. The violence and the compassion, the destruction and the creation. The endless cycle of falling down and getting back up. Your species is a contradiction, she finally said. Hassan laughed softly. Yes, we are capable of terrible evil and incredible good. We have committed horrors that shame us still, but we have also achieved wonders that inspire us to be better. He stopped and turned to face her directly. The question we ask ourselves every day is simple. Which will we choose? Will we be the monsters or the heroes? And what is your answer? Hassan smiled, and his old eyes held a warmth that surprised her. We choose to be better. Every day, every generation, we try to be better than we were before. We do not always succeed, but we never stop trying. Soft chimes sounded through the chamber. Hassan's expression shifted slightly. Ambassador Keth has requested a demonstration of our capabilities. Captain Tanaka has agreed. He looked at Velas's with something like concern. You should return to your vessel. What happens next will be ... impressive, but it is best observed from a safe distance. Velas's felt a chill run through her body. How safe is safe? 4 light hours, minimum. She stared at him. For light hours. Whatever the humans were about to do was dangerous enough to require watching from 4 lighters away. What are you going to show them? She asked. Hassan's smile remained, but now it held an edge of pride. What we have become, what we can do, and what we choose to do with our power, he gestured. Toward the exit. Do not be afraid, cartographer. We have not survived everything the universe threw at us only to become tyrants. We learned that lesson long ago. He paused at the doorway, looking back at the countless displays showing human history. The universe is cruel and cold and does not care if we live or die. So we decided to care. About ourselves. About each other. About everyone we meet. His voice softened. That is our answer to the darkness. We choose to be the light. Velas's left the Prometheus with more questions than answers. But for the first time since this impossible encounter began, she felt something other than fear. She felt hope. 17 ships of the Galactic Concordance gathered at what the humans calculated was the minimum safe observation distance. 4 light hours from the Prometheus unbound. Even at that incredible range, the fleet's sensors were focused entirely on the massive human vessel. Ambassador Keth stood on his bridge, surrounded by advisors and scientists. Every display showed the same image. The Prometheus, hanging in space like some ancient predator preparing to hunt. Around him, the greatest minds of the Concordance waited in tense silence. This is either going to be amazing or terrifying, Tarim whispered to Velas's. The cartographer nodded but said nothing. After what she had seen in the archive, she suspected it would be both. Captain Tanaka's voice came through the communication system, calm and clear despite the vast distance. Thank you all for agreeing to witness this demonstration. I know many of you have questions about our capabilities, about whether we pose a threat to the Concordance. There was a pause. We hope to answer both concerns today. On the view screen, something changed. The Prometheus began to move, but not in any way that made sense. It did not accelerate or turn. Instead, space itself seemed to bend around it. Stars in the background stretched and blurred. The fabric of reality twisted like cloth being wrung out by invisible hands. Then the ship was gone. The scientists erupted in confused shouting. Sensors showed nothing. One moment, the Prometheus had been there. The next moment, empty space. Where did it go? Keth demanded. Before anyone could answer, a new signal arrived. A relay transmission from a monitoring station 12 star systems away. The human ship, the station reported, its operator's voice shaking. It just appeared, instantly. No faster-than-light signature. No wormhole. It simply appeared. 12 star systems. Hundreds of light years. Crossed in seconds. Keth felt his legs go weak. No technology in the Concordance could do that. Their fastest ships required days to travel such distances. And they left traceable signatures that could be detected and tracked. The humans had moved without leaving any trace at all. We apologize for the surprise. Tanaka's voice returned. Our drive system works differently than conventional faster-than-light technology. We do not travel through space. We convince space that we are already where we want to be. Convince space. Keth's translator flagged the phrase as metaphorical, but he was no longer sure. The relay transmission continued to show images from the distant system. The Prometheus had positioned itself above a barren planetoid, a dead rock of gray stone and frozen gases. Nothing lived there. Nothing could live there. This planetoid is scheduled for mining operations, Tanaka explained. It is uninhabited and has no ecological value. We have chosen it for our demonstration because what we are about to do is ... significant. The Prometheus did not fire weapons. That was the first thing Keth noticed. Whatever was about to happen, it was not an attack. Instead, the ship began to sing. There was no other word for it. Energy beams of impossible complexity cascaded from the human vessel, but they were not destructive. They were creative. They wove together in patterns that seemed almost musical. Flowing down to touch the dead surface of the planet, where they touched, matter changed. Rock flowed like water. Craters filled and smoothed. Mountains rose from nothing. Valleys carved themselves into existence. The gray surface began to shift in color, darkening here, lightening there, taking on patterns that looked almost organic. What is happening? One of the scientists breathed. They are reorganizing matter at the atomic level, another replied, his voice hollow with shock. They are building a planet. They are actually building a planet. The process continued for hours. Keth watched, unable to look away, as the barren rock transformed into something beautiful. An atmosphere appeared, conjured from base elements. Clouds formed. Water condensed and flowed into newly created ocean basins. After 6 hours, the planetoid was gone. In its place hung a garden world. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds drifting across a sky that had not existed that morning. The sensors confirmed what seemed impossible. Breathable atmosphere, stable temperature, conditions suitable for life. We do not conquer, Tanaka's voice said quietly. We create. The same stubbornness that kept us alive on our Deathworld now lets us make the galaxy more livable. Every system we enter, we leave better than we found it. Keth finally found his voice. How? How did your species achieve this in 6 centuries? Most civilizations require thousands of years to develop faster than light travel alone. What you have shown us today should be impossible for any species less than 10,000 years old. There was a pause. When Tanaka spoke again, her voice held something old and tired. Because we never had thousands of years, Ambassador. We never had the luxury of slow development. Our world was always trying to kill us. Droughts, famines, plagues, ice ages, asteroid impacts, wars among ourselves. Every generation faced extinction. Every generation had to innovate or die. The view screen shifted to show Earth, that beautiful blue-green marble of death. Most species evolve in stability. They have time to develop slowly, to make mistakes, to recover from setbacks. We never had that. Every mistake could be our last. So we learned to move fast, to adapt quickly, to solve problems before they killed us. The galaxy took 4 billion years to produce the concordance, Tanaka continued. Earth took 4 billion years to produce us. The difference is that our 4 billion years were spent fighting to survive. Every single day. That pressure created something different, something desperate, something determined. She paused, and when she spoke again, her voice was softer. You asked if we are a threat to the concordance. You asked if our power makes us dangerous. I will give you an honest answer. Keth tensed. Around him, his advisors leaned forward. Yes, we could be dangerous. We could use our technology to conquer, to dominate, to destroy. We have that power. But we also have something else. We have memory. The view screen changed again. Now it showed images Velisis had seen in the archive. Wars, destruction, the mushroom clouds over burning cities, the countless dead from human conflicts. We remember what it is like to be the monsters, Tanaka said. We remember the wars that nearly destroyed us, the weapons that could have ended our species, the hatred and fear that drove us to kill our own kind. Her voice hardened with conviction. We did not survive a Class 3 Deathworld only to become the thing we feared most. We did not overcome extinction to bring extinction to others. The images faded, replaced by the garden world the Prometheus had created. We chose a different path. We chose to build instead of destroy, to heal instead of harm, to offer our gifts freely without conditions or demands. Keth struggled to process what he was hearing. In all his years of diplomacy, he had never encountered anything like this. Species with power always used it. They conquered or controlled or exploited. It was the nature of intelligent beings. Why? He asked the same question he had asked before. Why would you give such gifts freely? Tanaka's response came without hesitation. Because we know what it is like to struggle alone. We know the fear of facing threats too great to overcome. We know the despair of believing that no one cares whether you live or die. Ah! Her voice cracked slightly. We spent our entire existence alone on a hostile world, fighting to survive without allies or aid. Now that we have power, we will not let others suffer that same isolation. The communication channel fell silent for a moment. Then Tanaka spoke one final time. The universe is cold, Ambassador. It does not care about any of us. So we must care for each other. That is the lesson our Deathworld taught us. That is the gift we offer to the galaxy. She paused. The question is whether you will accept it. Geth looked at the garden world on his screen. 6 hours ago, it had been a dead rock. Now it could support billions of lives. All that potential created in a single afternoon by beings who wanted nothing in return. He began to understand why the humans had survived. It was not just their technology or their determination. It was their refusal to let hardship make them cruel. They had faced every horror the universe could offer, and they had emerged not as conquerors, but as gardeners. They wanted to make things grow, and Keth realized, with a mixture of awe and humility, that the galaxy would never be the same. The Concordance High Council chambers had stood for 9,000 years, carved from the living rock of an asteroid that orbited the oldest star in known space. They had witnessed the rise and fall of empires, the birth of alliances, and the resolution of conflicts that had threatened to tear the galaxy apart. 17 species sat in the great circular hall, their representatives forming a ring of power and wisdom that had guided galactic civilization since before most races had discovered fire today. They sat in stunned silence. Ambassador Keth stood at the center of the chamber, finishing his report. Holographic displays surrounded him, showing images of the Prometheus Unbound, the terraformed world, the impossible technology that the humans wielded as casually as other species wielded simple tools. Keth concluded, his voice steady despite the weight of what he was saying. We face a decision unlike any in our history. A species has emerged from a Class 3 death world, achieved technological supremacy beyond our understanding in an impossibly short time, and now offers us friendship without conditions. The silence stretched. Finally, Elder Morthen spoke. The crystalline being was ancient beyond measure, older than most stars in the galaxy. Its voice came as harmonic vibrations that resonated through the chamber like music. You have spent 3 cycles with these humans. You have seen their history, witnessed their power, spoken with their leaders. The harmonics shifted to a questioning tone. What is your assessment? Are they trustworthy? Keth considered his answer carefully. The question was simple, but the implications were vast. His words could shape the future of galactic civilization. They are trustworthy, he said finally. But not because they are weak or afraid of us. Not because they need our resources or our territory. They are trustworthy because they have chosen to be. And that choice, Elder, is the most remarkable thing about them. Explain, another council member demanded. This was V. Aaron, a being of pure energy that flickered between dimensions as it spoke. Most species that achieve power become conquerors, Keth said. It is the natural order. Strength dominates weakness. The strong take what they want from the strong. The humans could do this easily. Their technology is centuries beyond our own. They could sweep through the Concordance like a storm through summer flowers. He paused, letting the weight of that truth sink in. But they have chosen not to. Not because they cannot, but because they believe it is wrong. They remember their own history, the wars that nearly destroyed them, the cruelty they inflicted on each other. They remember the monsters they used to be, and they have decided, consciously and deliberately, to be something else. Morthen's crystals hummed thoughtfully. You believe their ethics are genuine? Not simply a strategy to disarm us? Keth thought of Dr. Hassan in the archive, speaking of teachers who changed the world. He thought of Captain Tanaka, extending her fragile hand in friendship. He thought of the garden world, created from nothing as a gift. I believe their ethics were forged in the same fire that created their technology, he answered. Their Deathworld taught them that survival requires cooperation. Their wars taught them that destruction is easier than creation, but ultimately meaningless. Their near extinctions taught them that life is precious and must be protected. He looked around at the assembled council. They did not develop their power first, and their morality second. Both grew together, intertwined, inseparable. Buron flickered skeptically. And what do they want in return for their generosity? Nothing, Keth said simply. The council stirred. This was the part that troubled them most. Nothing in galactic politics was truly free. Every gift came with strings, every alliance with obligations. They call it paying forward, Keth continued. Apparently, in their darkest times, when they were still confined to their deadly world, their storytellers created tales about benevolent beings from the stars. Fiction about wise and kind civilizations that would welcome humanity into a larger community. These stories gave them hope during their hardest years. He smiled slightly, still amazed by what he had learned. Now that they are the advanced species, they want to be the benevolent beings their ancestors dreamed of. They want to be the hope that others look up to. Not because they expect anything in return, but because they believe it is the right thing to do. Mortham's harmonics shifted again, and Keth's translator interpreted the tone as wonder. They have turned their fiction into a moral imperative? Yes, they told me something before I left. They said the universe is cold and vast and does not care whether we live or die. So they decided to care. About everything. About everyone. Because if they did not, then what was the point of surviving at all? The council fell silent again. Keth could see them struggling with the concept. Species did not behave this way. Power corrupted. Strength dominated. It was the fundamental truth of existence, and yet here were the humans, defying that truth as casually as they defied physics. Finally, Elder Morthen spoke again. What exactly are they offering? Keth activated a new display. Schematics and documents filled the air around him, showing technologies, techniques, and knowledge that would take the Concordance millennia to develop on their own. Everything, he said. Their terraforming technology, their medical advances, their energy systems, their philosophical frameworks for ethical decision-making. All of it, freely shared, with no restrictions on use or development. The council members studied the displays. Even with their vast experience, they could not hide their reactions. Wonder, disbelief, hunger, fear. This would transform the Concordance, Viaran observed. Dead worlds could become gardens. Diseases that plague dozens of species could be cured. Energy scarcity would become a thing of the past. Yes, Keth confirmed. And they ask for nothing in return, except one thing. What? Morthon demanded. Kiwi took a breath. Conversation, contact, community. They have been alone for their entire existence. They want to know that they are not the only thinking beings in a universe that does not think. They want neighbors, friends, partners in the great project of making existence meaningful. He looked around at the assembled council one final time. They survived their planet. They survived their own worst impulses. They survived being dismissed and ignored by a galaxy that declared them non-viable. And their response to all of that suffering, all of that struggle, all of that loneliness, is to reach out with open hands and offer us gifts. His voice softened. The humans are asking one simple question. They have proven they can survive anything. Now they want to know if they can make the galaxy worth surviving for. The council deliberated for hours. Keth waited outside the chamber, standing beside Velus's Centaurium. The cartographer and the science officer had been called as witnesses, their first-hand accounts adding weight to the ambassador's report. What do you think they will decide? Velisis asked quietly. Keith considered the question. I think they are afraid. The humans represent everything we thought we understood about the universe turned upside down. They are impossible, and yet they exist. They are powerful, and yet they are kind. Every instinct tells us to fear them, to reject them, to protect ourselves from change. He paused, watching the closed doors of the council chamber. But I also think they are inspired. For the first time in 9,000 years, something genuinely new has appeared. Something that offers hope instead of threat. The council members are old and wise, but they remember what it was like to dream of a better future. The humans have given them that dream again. The doors opened. Queth stepped forward, his heart's pounding. Around him, representatives of 100 worlds waited for the verdict that would shape the next. 1,000 years of galactic history. Elder Morthan emerged first. The ancient crystal, floating serenely, despite the magnitude of the moment. The council has reached a unanimous decision. Unanimous. That had not happened in centuries. We accept the humans' offer of friendship and alliance. We will welcome them into the concordance, not as subordinates or subjects, but as equals. We will learn from them, and perhaps, in time, we will have wisdom to offer in return. Keth released a breath he had not known he was holding. Furthermore, Morthan continued, we will send our own delegation to their homeworld. We will walk on the soil of their Deathworld, see for ourselves the cradle that produced such remarkable beings. We will honor their history, their struggles, and their achievements. The harmonic shifted to something warm and bright. The humans asked if they can make the galaxy worth surviving for. Our answer is yes. Not because of their technology or their power, but because of their hearts. They have shown us that kindness can be stronger than cruelty, that generosity can outlast greed, that hope can survive any darkness. Keth felt tears forming in his eyes. Around him, the representatives of 100 worlds stood in silence, absorbing the weight of the moment. Today, Morthan concluded, the galaxy grows larger. Today we discover that we are not alone, and that our new companions are worthy of the name. Today, we begin a journey we cannot predict, into a future we cannot imagine. The crystal's harmonic sword. We welcome humanity to the stars, far away, orbiting a Class 3 death world that should have killed them 1,000 times. The crew of the Prometheus Unbound received the news. Captain Tanaka read the message to her bridge crew, her voice steady, even as tears streamed down her face. They had done it. After billions of years of evolution, thousands of years of civilization, hundreds of years of technological development, and countless moments of despair when extinction seemed certain, humanity had finally found what it had always been searching for. They were not alone anymore, and as Tanaka looked out at the stars she had traveled so far to reach, she made a silent promise to every human who had ever lived and died on the death world below. It was worth it. All of it. Every struggle, every loss, every moment of darkness, we survived. And now we will help others survive too. The universe was cold, vast, and did not care. But humanity did, and that made all the difference.